My first experience with This Is New Zealand was seeing the movie as a schoolboy. I was at Pukerua Bay Primary School, 1971, so I would have been 10 years old. I guess that would make me Form 1, or maybe Standard 4 even. And we took the train in from Pukerua Bay to Wellington and went by bus to the embassy. It was like an official school trip, which was pretty amazing because we didn't really go on school trips to watch movies. That was unusual. And yet it was deemed to be an important enough event. And I remember at the time, I mean, very hazy recollections being 10 years old, but the whole nation was sort of suddenly swollen with pride about this movie, you know, This Is New Zealand. And it was like the moral and cultural duty of every citizen of New Zealand to see the movie. So there I was with my school class, and I went and looked at it at the embassy and really enjoyed it. And I remember going back and seeing it a second time with my mum and dad, and you know, seeing it sort of outside of the school hours. So I saw it twice at that time. But as a 10-year-old, I'd begun to play with mum and dad's Super 8 camera. So I was interested in filmmaking. I was certainly amazed at This Is New Zealand, at the technical achievement of having 3 cameras, because I knew that it was 3 cameras and 3 projectors screening this, you know, very special movie event. I was kind of aware of what had been accomplished, but I didn't have a clue how. It was way too technical for me at that stage to even understand it. I mean, it's a pretty amazing experience seeing it again. I looked at it about 6 months ago, and this is after 37 years. And it had, what was weird about it is that the years just melted away. I mean, I looked at this movie and I remembered it. I remembered moments of it. I almost knew what was going to happen next. There were things that had stood out in my mind from all that time ago, like one image was the train that goes past the camera, and then on the next screen it goes the other way, and then the other way. It sort of zigzags its way and across these 3 screens. And I remembered that image from being a kid. I've had that in my mind for decades, and then I saw it again, and there it was. And the flying towards, I guess it was Mount Cook probably, the mountains. I remember too from school, one of the shots that got the big reaction as a school kid was the scene of the dental nurse or somebody in a dentist chair. I remember that, and sure enough, there it was. It was very strangely nostalgic, but interesting as to what I'd retained after all that time. But I found the movie to be very impressive. I mean, technically, it's as good today as it ever was. I mean, in terms of the achievement of making the film, very, very difficult film to make, very difficult to coordinate it all, and the imagination and the creativity that went into making it still stands today as strongly as it ever did. But what This Is New Zealand did is that it captured something of the spirit of the country, and you know, that's what's missing from any thing that happens today, is that you get the facts, you get the news reports, or you get the entertainment through a soap opera, but you don't get anything that reflects the spirit of the nation and the sort of just the vibe of the country. And This Is New Zealand. It's the New Zealand that we all remember as kids, the hot summers at the beach, the barbecues, fortunately, a few things have gone, like the guys in their walk shorts and walk socks down Lambton Quay, they're not around anymore. Sometimes it's good to move on, but great to have the record.
I joined the National Film Unit at 18. I started making my own films within 3 years. A couple of those films gained international awards, and Jeffrey Scott, the manager, saw me as being the ideal director for This Is New Zealand, the new project that was going to be for Expo 70 Osaka. We just wanted to give an impression of the country, its landscape, a certain amount of its history. We also wanted to show the aspects of the way New Zealanders lived their lives, what their entertainments were, what their lifestyles were, what their livelihood was, just without any words. It was probably a bit more intuitive than strategic, We just knew that it's got to be appropriate, it's got to be emotional, it's got to be all-engulfing, it's got to capture the audience. When Jeffrey Scott said to me, you're going to be the director, I said, what can you do in 3 screens that you can't do in 1? And he said, oh, you'll find a way. I did think, well, I've got to get a good crew around me, and that's what I did. We made a list of subjects, we made a list of locations, and we wrote a structured treatment. And then we had 3 crews going on the road shooting all the time. Every movement and counter movement is done to a purpose. There are puns, visual puns, and there are a lot of people get those little bits that we had fun making. We had no colour processing in Miramar until 1973. We, of course, were shooting colour, so it went to Humphrey's laboratory in London. When they started grading the master negatives, they changed them all to English colours, milky and all sort of, hazy. In the end, I had to take clips from the original and said, look, that's the green we have, not the green you've got. And they got it right, but it took a while. Expo 70 was utterly fascinating. The place was extraordinary. All the people from different countries all mixed together, and there was a terrific esprit de corps. At the end of Expo, everything was knocked flat. Only part of the New Zealand pavilion was actually kept there because it was one of the most popular pavilions at Expo 70.
The Bushwalk, a stylised impression of New Zealand native forest. In Display Hall 2 are clusters of models showing the products of the land. And we could never ignore aerial top dressing and jet boats.
The Japanese were very enthusiastic about This Is New Zealand. We knew that they liked it, and some of them kept coming back again too. We only thought we were doing it for a 6-month trade show that would involve people looking at it. We didn't realise it would get the New Zealanders themselves absolutely hooked on what we'd done. It had a very strong emotional impact on them. Nobody was immune from it. The men came out looking extremely proud, and the women were frequently wiping tears of enjoyment from their eyes, and the men weren't immune to that either. This Is New Zealand was one of the most challenging projects I'd ever done, also one of the most enjoyable, huge learning experience as well. Yeah, it's a time capsule, definitely, yes it is. It has a feeling of when we were young and could do anything.